This year, Santa's bringing the power of Energizer into his workshop.
Whoa, the Energizer Bunny's got so much power.
Wait, he's powered up all the toys. I think that means we're done for the year.
I love this bunny.
He's the hardest working helper the North Pole has ever seen. And he wants all your gifts to have the power of the #1 longest lasting AA battery. So this holiday season, stock up on Santa's and the elves' favorite battery, Energizer Ultimate Lithium.
Ampire.
Hey babies, hey babies, hey babies. Hi everyone. What's up everybody? Happy Tuesday. Short weeks for everybody. How's it going? What's up?
It's like an adrenaline rush. All of a sudden we've pushed fast forward on the week with everything we got to do.
Yeah, a lot. You caught a couple days off with the Yale Capitals, but then it ramps up to an 11 for all of us as you've got Caps Wednesday. Yep. I've got Commanders Thursday, Spirit Saturday, big Spirit game Saturday. So this is big Commanders game Thursday. This is big week. Big week here in the old DC.
For me, you're skipping over the hardest part. It's big boy hockey on Wednesday, Toronto, then Eagles, right? Thursday, yep. Friday at Colorado, 9 p.m. puck drop there, hon, late night. Wake up, be at Audi at the crack of dawn. So yeah, we got a week ahead for your boy over here for producing.
How do you feel? I'm going to get into the Commanders in a second. How do you feel about me this morning waking up going, I wonder what secondary ticket prices are on the Capitals about 35 to 40 games from now, just to see.
I like that.
What do you think of that one?
No, I think that's good thinking. You're thinking ahead. Did you actually do that? Like, did you look to see where?
Oh, there's a game against Calgary about 40 games from now where the upper deck is 20-something bucks.
Okay, you could. What do you want to buy? You want to use it like stock? You want to buy a bunch and then try to sell them back, or what? Like, I don't know.
$20. I'm like, I could probably sell them back even if it's not in play, right? Like, I'm starting to think like, okay. Is it realistic he's going to continue to score a goal every game? Probably not. But, like, if you're going to do this, you kind of have to pick off all the home games, right? And hope that it's right around it starting in basically January, February.
You have the crypto bros going crazy over Bitcoin today. You are going after the Ovechkin goal streak. I do like that.
I didn't think Trump was going to win or I would have bought the Bitcoin last week.
Fair.
It's one of those, like, I know he's going to break the goal scoring record. It's just when I was unsure. I mean, it was 50-50. I probably should have bought the Ethereum and Bitcoin a week ago, but it didn't do it. And, Bitcoin Daddy's back in office, baby. Bitcoin Daddy's back home. So
I will say this. I think you're overshooting it. I think if he stays on this streak, like.
Yeah. This is my point, though. I just said 34 games from now. That's a goal a game. Like, nobody scores 82, okay?
Yeah,
you're right. I mean? So
you're right. Okay.
It's not real. It's not realistic. That's the marker I put on when I would start looking and go, it might be in play at that point. Maybe, but it's probably not. Probably closer to later in the season, probably.
And then
but I guess to do this, you'd have to buy up a bunch of the home games to really pull it off.
I mean, you wouldn't have to do the home games. You could see who's playing away. I think you're actually going to see some Caps fans travel for this or start to travel for it.
Well, I mean, if it's in play for a game in Philly or New York or something like that, it's going to be a bazillion. And plus, like, if it is in play in any of those places, the ticket demand is going to be outrageous for it.
That's right.
So,
that's right. I think worst case scenario is this happens when they're on like a West Coast trip. Like that's a disaster. Like NHL doesn't want that. Like he cannot be breaking the record in Anaheim. No. Like that just can't be happening.
I thought you'd be proud of me though that I actually thought about it this morning, and I'm like, I'm going to just see what the prices are of things right now because if you're going to do it, you got to buy them now. That's the way I look at it. All right, let's talk about the Commanders here. So I rewatched. Because I'm on hyperdrive to get ready for the game on Thursday. First homework assignment I give myself. And London gave me one yesterday, and I forgot all about this. And I'm going to have to do this tonight. But I rewatched the game, which I typically give myself a day off, but we just kind of can't, this week. He reminded me, he's like, if you really want to see how, Dan and Joe's defense is going to go against Philadelphia, you're going to have to kind of watch Dallas last year against them to see how did they approach them. So looks like I'm watching 2023 Cowboys-Eagles games tonight to try to get a sense of like how they thought about them, albeit no Saquon Barkley to deal with. So that's a whole different, animal, I think. But on our side, in rewatching the Commanders-Pittsburgh game, I'll start here. Like, there's an all-time gut check that's coming for the offensive line this weekend. One, because of injuries, and two, because of, I would largely describe this as their worst game in totality. And not just that they were beat by a really, good team or gave up pressures or all that stuff. I'm not totally overly concerned about that. I mean, there were a few that were glaring that I'll talk about in a minute, but there were missed assignments. And actually, one of the things that's been, there's a lot of reasons why this team has the record that it has. They're one of them. Like, they came in and everyone thought it was a massive weakness, or at least on the edges was a weakness. Like, we bought Cosme, assumed Biotish would be good enough for sure. He's been Pro Bowl level. Thought we're like hopeful Allegretti's an answer at left guard. And then we went, and who's the left tackle? So, and do we really buy Wiley again? Like, there was a lot of that going on. And I think they answered a lot of questions first half of the season. Some of it is just, I think it's been execution really more than anything. I think like one of the big stories of why they've been here, they don't turn the ball over. Jaden's way ahead of the curve. And the offensive line is executing at an extraordinary level in what looks to be, and someone would have to tell me otherwise, looks to be a pretty complicated offense. It's very different than what they were doing. And so all of that's, I think, part of the, is this real? If you go watch them the first, 8-9, like, wow. Like, it's like they don't miss assignments. They're on top of people. They're a very movable group. Now that Coleman is a full-time starting left tackle, they're an extremely movable group, like 5 pieces that can move. That's the one thing Lucas can't do, is he can't really get out in space and block for you. But this particular past one was, I think, the one that on the Old Truth Monday, I don't think they're going to like what they saw. Cosme missed a couple of assignments. Biotish missed a couple of assignments. Like, yes, like Coleman was beat a few times off the edge. Yes, late. TJ Watt had a big moment late, but, I'm not going to complain about our third tackle starting on that side gave up one pressure to TJ Watt. No complaints coming about that. And there were missed assignments, but I was in totality a little bit surprised, and it was the first time I saw it. So, it's not just the health part of it, which I want to, give them a break on here. And I said this yesterday, like, they need the bye week bad. And it's very obvious they need it because of health. And I think just that point of the season, but this is one of those, this is where their execution was a little more off than it's been. And it was actually surprising to see.
I mean, how much of that do you chalk up that to being just going up against a very good defense, though? I mean, like, not just good players, but like best at their position type players too. Like, do you think there was a little more head games going on there? They were a little more worried because I need to, be on this a little bit more, because that almost seems like a mental thing, not a physical thing.
So that's a very good defense, right? So I want to credit them. It's a very good defense. They have a Hall of Famer playing defensive end for them. And Alex Highsmith was outrageously good in this game. And Patrick Queen, it was funny. When I was watching them leading up to it, you don't feel his presence as much as you thought you would. He was dynamic against them the other day. Like, you felt his speed. If he's going to be like that, with that front and him, that's what he's supposed to do, is clean up everything and get there fast. He was out. He was very, very, very good. Coleman missed a couple blocks, frankly, like got beat a couple of times. We haven't seen a lot of that. And again, like, he's been hurt twice already. This is actually the third time. He got hurt in the preseason. He had a concussion, unfortunately, came back from that. His shoulder's injured now. They were looking at him, during the game the other day. They've listed him with a shoulder injury. He got beat off the edge a couple of times. I thought Trent Scott, all things considered, did really well. I was when they said Wiley wasn't starting, I went, oh God, like, you're screaming 3-sack game for TJ Watt. Like, it just screams that. He actually played pretty well. The part that I'm talking about here is, and this is the surprise part of it, was there was missed assignments and allowed to a number of plays not going the right way. Namely, like, there was a missed assignment in the middle of the line that led directly to a sack of Daniels. There was a missed assignment by Cosme on what might have been the difference-making play. Keanu Benton, you'll recall, tripped up Jaden Daniels on rush up the middle assignment there or missed the block or whatever, Benton beat him, whatever it was. This was just surprising. I mean, like seeing Jaden not be as precise as he was, and then rewatching and seeing the offensive line not executing the way that I'm accustomed to seeing was a surprise. So it's just it's actually like, again, like we were talking about yesterday, in totality, all things considered, and I'll go through some of the missed assignments too, and missed opportunities too. The fact that they lost by 1 point and they played that way the other day is, to me, I know they don't like moral victories. It kind of is one, because when you rewatch this, you're going to think the right team won the other day and not by a point.
Yeah. And to me too, like I kind of jumped on this on my show. It wasn't just the the little mistakes. They were major mistakes.
Yes.
And it was a 1 point loss. Like it wasn't just the one missed block, or it wasn't just one penalty where they jump off sides. It was these major mistakes, like a gaffed punt, or like jumping off sides when the whole stadium knew they were going to try to do that. Or the 1 yard, miss by Ertz essentially at the end of the game. They were major misses, and it was only a 1 point game. I think I'm with you. Like this is a little bit different than the normal close loss, I think.
It is. It really is. In the second half, if you go back, and there's just like, this one was weird because there were a million plays that could have gone. I probably had something to do with the outcome, including the last two. I know a lot of people are focusing on that spot, which I still think I don't understand it. I don't know why they didn't put the ball where it belonged and then bring the chains out. It doesn't mean he got it. I just want to bring the chains out. Let's find out. But they didn't do it, whatever. And then the penalty at the end, yes, that was bad. There were a million other moments. There were 3 straight second half drives where they shot their feet. And this really, this is going to be very telling, I'm sure, for them too. I know they need to turn the page and move on because they have a big game in a couple of days. But if they are going to go through and rewatch the film, I think they're going to see the same things that I really saw here. Don't forget that Eckler gave them a kickoff return that got them to the 47-yard line. And that was the drive that on second or third down, that Jaden missed a wide open Olamide Zaccheaus streaking across the middle of the field, just missed him. And this was one of those, we saw it early in the game and we saw it here in this moment too. He's wide open. We're so accustomed to seeing him hit those passes. It was unusual to see him miss. He didn't miss by much, but you don't have to miss by much in the NFL. You need to be precise. And I'm so used to seeing him be so precise. I was surprised, but that was one. And that blew up a drive that started at midfield, and they got nothing out of it. That's one.
No, that goes off the, I think it was Bears for Luga's headline yesterday. That was this one stung because we're already so used to the standard that has been raised here over the last 10 weeks. That's why this one stings a little bit more, because even our standard as fans that have been beaten down for so long has been risen so quick over the last 3 months. That's why yesterday or Sunday stung a little bit more, because we're just used to them executing at a better level, essentially.
Yes. The very next drive, they got a punt out of them. That drive started in Pittsburgh territory. So after the one where they had a missed opportunity on the drop to OZ, the very next drive started in Pittsburgh territory because they made them punt from their end zone. And this is the Ertz drop. This one was, that one hit him flat in the numbers and he just dropped it. There were miscues by Jaden that were unusual, and then they were added up with these. Diami had one in the end zone that didn't matter because they ended up scoring anyway. They had a couple of other drops, but there were also misfired throws from Daniels that we're just not accustomed to seeing, but this was the second one. So they had 2 drives that started at midfield or better and ended up in 3 points with an offense that's as efficient as any offense has been literally in 25 years. It was a surprise to see. The execution across the board just kind of was not there the other day. And yet they scored 27 points. I mean, that's really the amazing part of telling this story is I'm watching them and I'm going, there are so many missed opportunities and ones that we're not accustomed to with this group. And yet most of the time when that happens, that team ends up with 10 points and loses 28-10. And you go, well, they were right there. And I think that's why this one falls in that Baltimore category. It's a touch misleading, they didn't play very well, but lost by 1. The whole thing's kind of misleading.
I think I said this to you on my show yesterday too. The only other team to drop 27 on them was the Colts, and that was when Fields was playing too. So that was just a little bit different version of the team. That's the highest point total that's been scored on that defense all year. Like, that's a really good defense, top to bottom.
Yes.
And it was a bad day for this offense. Like, yeah, the Colts messed around and did that. This was a bad day for the offense. I think I told you this yesterday. Jaden's final stat line was like, I think 17 of 34 for
50% completion.
For 202. But if you want to play devil's advocate, take away the one pass to Terry and it's 148. It's 16 for 33 for 148. Like, that's even worse, Well,
it's actually two ridiculous catches. That sideline catch was absurd too. I mean, that was a great throw, great catch. I don't like the other one was a slant. I mean, like he caught him and happened to be running. The sideline throw is a low percentage, great throw, great catch. Yeah. There's one more. The very next drive after the Ertz drop one, this was one of those where the O-line just missed blocks and gave up a sack, and Jaden was under duress the entire game. So some of this, I think the early part in watching him, he gets so settled. He's so calm. He's always smiling, like he's so into it, and he seems to be locked in. When he was a bit unsettled early, I kind of, he'd have to tell whether this is the case or not, but like I attribute that to he didn't know what he had in front of him. That's what I think. Like Trent Scott starting, Andrew Wiley's not there. That's a bad matchup. Like, that's just a bad matchup. Highsmith's been outstanding, had a really great game. I hope he's okay. He hurt his ankle. He had a really, really, really great game. Coleman is coming off injury. He's beat up. There is no Lucas behind them. Like, I think that he was a touch unsettled early because I don't think he knew what was happening. And then he was under a level of duress that was very different than what we've seen here in the last couple of weeks. So, but there were missed opportunities. And to that point, like what I've seen the last few weeks is this is what teams have settled on now. They're not going to not come with a lot of pressure all the time. And they're going to take their chances with him running around a little bit because if you only rush 4 and you give him time, he's as good as anybody. So, and I think they've settled on it. Like the Giants have more sacks, or at least going into last week, more sacks than anybody in the NFL. They also don't blitz very much. And yet they blitzed more than they had in any game all year against him. It didn't work because Washington was great at execution up front. The running backs were outstanding picking up blitzes. The line held up really, really well and gave him time to throw. But that's what they settled on. Pittsburgh did the same thing. Pittsburgh, who had an advantageous matchup with all of the injuries that were there, they still brought pressure and decided this is the way we're going to come at you. And so I expect this from here forward until it goes a different direction. And the unfortunate part of that is there's going to be some punishment inflicted on Daniels as we go along here. And the season's getting long on him too. Like everybody could really use a bye week, but this just means he's going to take a lot of hits, or Cliff and company are going to have to get the ball out of his hands quickly when they see this coming, because this for this year and for the right now, teams are now showing their cards. This is how they've decided they want to attack him. And I kind of don't blame him. At first, I'm like, pick your poison. You bring people at him. He jukes people out of their shorts and he runs around them. And all of a sudden he's running for 30-yard gains. Well, that didn't happen really the last couple of weeks. He did one good one against the Giants, but he didn't have a lot of the long runs, dangerous runs. I think the attrition's catching up to him a little bit, injuries on the O-line. And I think people have just decided if we rush 4 and don't get there, he's going to skewer us. So that's what we're looking at here. Like teams that actually don't need to or don't blitz that often are. So they're telling you what they think the answer is to him. He still scored 27. Again, still scored 27.
No, I think part of this too, I don't know if this has to do with him running or as much as it is probably the rib injury that he's still got, by the way. But I also think I mentioned this yesterday too, where we're starting to see now, like this happens with some of the younger players. This is the longest these guys have played football in a season. Like, and it's obviously not the same football. It's the NFL now. I think you're not seeing him run as much too, because maybe that fatigue is setting in just a little bit, maybe not crazy, but just a little bit, or just enough where, like I saw it on that, I think it was the last drive or the second to last drive where he went to go for a run right up the middle. And you and I have talked about it all year long. His first 5 yards are the fastest I've ever seen. And even he was not running as fast as I was used to. He got 100%. Caught. I want to say it was Hayward that caught him there. And even I was kind of like, ooh, that's different. Like he usually rips that off for at least 8 yards, and he didn't do it there. I think it's just catching up to him a little bit.
Yes.
I mean, the good part too is, yes, they have a late bye, but at least after this Eagles game, it's a little bit of an extended rest for them too. I think that's going to be the benefit off this win or lose.
This is one of those, and I bet you Quinn does this. See you Wednesday.
Yeah, I agree.
And this team needs it. And you know what? They are trustworthy in how they've stayed in the process to give their bodies a break. And I think they need it bad. Like it's really caught up with them. And here's the way I look at it with, if they can pull this off, it is a humongous message about what they're about, because the odds are really stacked against them on Thursday. I mean, short turnaround up there. Eagles are kind of rolling. The things that we have problems with, big running backs and big running games, like this is a problem. I need to look at them, but they're definitively healthier than we are. They've already had their bye. They've been crushing people in the second half. That's where actually this team is not held up the last few weeks. The second half, they've been giving a lot of points. So like it's all kind of stacked against them. Doesn't mean they can't win. And if they do, I think it's a very telling thing. I would just largely look at this. They got 2 under 500 teams coming here at home after this before they get to a bye. I don't care how they win those games. I don't care what the scores look like. But if they do, they're 9-4 entering their bye. Everything's still on the table, and they will play Philadelphia again. And hopefully they'll be in better shape health-wise by the time they get around to it. So I'm taking a bigger, longer view here. The sky isn't falling. The odds are stacked against them. I got a really bad feeling about Thursday night. You know, I know how competitive they are, but it's not adding up, very well. I've seen stranger things. A couple years ago when they went up to Philadelphia and beat that undefeated team, I didn't honestly think they were going to do that, and this is a different team with a different quarterback. So I don't know. Maybe they will, but it's going to be a heck of a task considering what I just saw and how the Eagles are playing and the short turnaround. They picked the wrong week to have this, this is mistimed. They played 2 really good teams, one off a bye and another who's streaking in a week where they really need a week off bad. So even if it goes the wrong way, I'm like, you know what? They got 2 under 500 teams coming here. If they win those, I don't 17-13. I don't even care how they win them. Don't give me style points on it. It's a long NFL season. If they're 9-4 at the bye, everything's still back on the table. That's the way I feel about it.
There's one factor here too. Like, don't underestimate Sirianni screwing some things up,
Yeah, maybe.
Like they had some really close games. I'm with you. They're rolling now, but like they were all freaking out during a 3-game win streak where they barely beat the Browns and barely beat the Jags. Maybe they have a little bit of a problem with getting up and down for certain opponents, so they'll probably up for this one for the Commanders. But I'm just saying, your boy Sirianni out there, your doppelganger, he has been known to screw up.
I do not look like him. I'm offended when people say that. I don't look like him. I don't think he's an attractive man. I don't look like him.
Just saying, just laying the facts out. That's all.
And then lastly, I would just say this too. They're 7-3. Like, that's,
yeah.
So, and welcome to the NFL. You don't win them all. Like nobody does. So there were going to be downturns here. And I think they've hit it largely. I just think they need a break. That's just really how I see it. I think they're getting injuries that are piling up in a way that they just need a week and get their minds right, get their bodies, give it a rest. And whatever happens Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you're off, right? Maybe come in Monday, maybe not. I feel like I think it's going to be, and I think Quinn's going to do this. Like they've given their all here. They're still in really good position. What they need is a physical break. It is very obvious. And so let's see what happens. I'm not saying they're going to lose. I'm worried, right? I'm worried. Obviously.
The other thing that happened here too, we started to allude to it yesterday. The schedule started to break their way. Like the Bucks lost again, right? Last night was huge. The Dolphins take care of the Rams. Like, yeah, exactly. And like, this is the other thing that's kind of skewing their way here. Like The one team you might have had to worry about was maybe the Bears. They're falling apart now. Like you don't know what's going to happen in the NFC North now too. Like, do the Vikings actually last until the end of the season? I don't know. 12 points against the Jags is a little ridiculous. Like, it's starting to break with them in the schedule. Like if they lose this other one, they're still getting some help when it comes to the NFC picture. That's what I feel really good about moving forward as well.
Look, and the other thing here too is this: even if they lose, like the reality is they could still win the division. They're going to play them again, and they're going to play them at home. And if they were to, they're going to have to win that game. And if they were to win that game, they would be one game back, assuming that they win the 2 games they get before the bye. And guess what? Like, Philadelphia still hasn't played Pittsburgh or the Ravens yet. So you don't think they're going to lose one of those two? They probably are.
Yeah.
And so now everything is still on the table here is my point. I don't think anything's off of it. And if they end up with 11 or more wins, like, we'll forget about the pothole that's happening right now. We're in survival mode. We just need to survive, and nobody lose their minds if they lose Thursday night, because everything is still on the table. This is just not set up very well here. Now, if they go pull this off, oh man, I would color me beyond impressed if they go up there and actually pull this off Thursday and get themselves in a position where they're back in the lead of the NFC East with the long weekend, with 2 under 500 teams coming here over the next couple of weeks and a bye on the horizon. They pull this off, it's the win of the year, honestly, if they do.
No, 100%. And we might get Sirianni fired at that point too. That's a distinct possibility. Like, I don't know. I don't think it's like 50-50. I think there's like a 20% chance though. Like,
if they beat them because Sirianni does something that all the fans think is dumb.
Right.
I interviewed, Kincaid's the best. I had John Kincaid on from, he's up with the Fanatic in Philadelphia, my buddy. He comes on every, Eagles weekend. I'm going to play the interview for you tomorrow. And he just roasted Sirianni. I mean, he's like it's the whole we're winning in spite of him. It's like that's the whole thing right now up there. They all don't trust that if he described it as he's an administrator now, and actually that all the players really like him. Most of them actually like him. They don't dislike him, but they don't want him coming in the room and saying anything. Is basically the vibe he gets from it, that they're fine with him, but what they don't want him to do is anything that has to do with the scheme at all.
Oh, well, we've all worked at places where you don't want to hear from the boss. Yeah. That always works out great.
Sure. I know about places like that. So anyway, be right back. Be right back. Bram Watch this show. ESPN 630, the Sports Capital.
Time to move? Skip the hassles of selling during the holiday season and sell your home directly to Opendoor. Request an all-cash offer in minutes, close, and get paid in days. You can even pick your close date so you can move after New Year's. Start your move at Opendoor.com or download the Opendoor app. Opendoor is represented by Opendoor Brokerage Inc., license 02061130 in California, and Opendoor Brokerage LLC in its other markets. Terms and conditions apply.
So, you want to be a marketer. It's easy. You just have to score a ton of leads and figure out a way to turn them all into customers. Plus, manage a dozen channels, write a million blogs, and launch 100 campaigns all at once. When that's done, simply make your socials go viral and bring in record profits. No sweat. Okay, fine. It's a lot of sweat. But with HubSpot's AI-powered marketing tools, launching benchmark-breaking campaigns is easier than ever. Get started at HubSpot.com/marketers.
With Uber Reserve, good things come to those who plan ahead. Family vacay? Reserve your ride as soon as you book your flights. To all the planners, now you can reserve your Uber ride up to 90 days in advance. See Uber app for details.
All right, welcome back. Let's spend some time with Micah. Oh boy, this has been a fun season. We've had a renaissance. We got this new ownership. Got the coach, said they were going to play. They're going to like the way we get down. You're right. Love this quarterback. Oh, it's everything's coming up roses. Huge November game at Philadelphia with the division on the line, and the other two teams are done. Oh, this is great. And then what's going on in Dallas, which is it's better than I thought it was going to be. I knew this was going to unravel. I knew they'd be a 500 team around or worse. Like that's what I knew that just by what they did in the offseason. But I forgot what happens when that happens to them is they unravel in a way that almost no other team will unravel because they get an inordinate amount of attention. So when they're bad or turning bad or the apple's going sour on them, this is where everybody's talking about them, and then they can't help themselves. So Micah Parsons, I'm going to play this because he's yelling and screaming that he was taken out of context, which in most cases is never the case, right? So why don't we, for the sake of accuracy, play what he said in the locker room so you can actually hear this. So this is from Sunday after they were blown out by the Eagles. And here is Micah Parsons talking to Jory Epstein, who's covered the Cowboys for a long time.
Mike's on the final year of his contract, so outside there's, of course, going to be questions. What's the sentiment inside the locker room, and what do you tell people who are wondering about whether McCarthy will be your coach next year?
That's above my pay grade about if Mike is coaching again next year. But, all coaching aside, Mike can leave and go wherever he wants. But guys, I kind of feel bad for guys like Zach Martin and guys who might be on their last year or on their way out, because that's who I wanted to hold the trophy for. You want to win games and do great things with those type of legends who put in more time and work than Mike McCarthy ever did. So those are the kind of guys that I have so much sympathy and hurt for.
You guys were
okay. Okay. So when he says he was taken out of context, he wasn't. Now, I know what he's saying at the beginning. It's the last part. Had he not said the last part, when he said, that's above my pay grade, which is the right thing to say, I'm not in charge. Like, this is unlike Aaron Rodgers, who could get people fired. He's not saying I can call Jerry Jones and do anything about this, whether I wanted to or not. Not saying I do, not saying I don't. Good answer. I play for the guys in the locker room. I'm totally fine with that. I don't actually have an issue with any of that. It's that caveat of he hasn't put the work in like these other guys have, where, sorry, Micah, we are going to make a big deal out of that. And the whole, he can do whatever he wants. Well, his contract's up. I think that's what he meant by that.
Yeah, I actually don't have a problem with that
with all of that.
Yeah.
I think that could easily be misconstrued, but I think I know what he meant. And I don't think he meant it in the way that it was taken. It was the follow-up of, I do this for guys like Zach Martin, et cetera, and who've put in the work way more than that guy ever has. That is the insinuation that he's just along for the ride with a really good team. And that's never going to fly. Ever.
No, especially on a coach that's on a lame duck deal that we've talked about all summer long. Like, the response there is, oh, we were right. You guys don't actually care about McCarthy. Like, that was not a ringing endorsement. That's the phrase I'm looking for. And like, you did not say anything about him. And in fact, just deflected to like your older teammates, essentially. And it just tells me that McCarthy doesn't instill this type of leadership that, is probably needed for an NFL coach.
No. Okay, fine. People seem to forget that the last 2 years they won 24 games.
Sure.
And that comment acts like McCarthy had nothing to do with it.
That's fair. I'll give you that.
This is like in the same thing when we were talking about Sirianni earlier. The Eagles' record is what it is over the last few years, but the Eagles fans act like Sirianni is an impediment to being even better than it is, which, as smart as I think those fans are, I think is not giving him no credit for it, or very, very little credit for it, is not fair. Like, they are winning at the clip that they're winning. He is the head coach. He must be doing something right. Something.
I mean, the other side of this coin is the defense was gutted. The whole coaching staff is here in Washington. Like, McCarthy could be a little more hands-on with the defense, I guess, but that is not technically his department.
McCarthy's an offensive coach. He's been
boy Zimmer. So, yeah, I mean, it's your boy Zimmer there. I don't know if he needs to tear up, teddy bears again, like he did in Minnesota. And so, yeah, I just look at this as maybe Micah doesn't deal with McCarthy as much. Or it's the other side of this coin as well is you mentioned Sirianni. Maybe there's a little bit of, we know he could be better. Because I think that's really what it is with Sirianni. The fans see how that team operates. They know what good football looks like, and they just know there's another gear they could be hitting with the personnel that they have.
Okay. Now, Parsons, I'm not going to play his reaction on his podcast, which is funny when I play this part of it, where he basically said that his words were taken out of context. I just played them for you. Do you think they were I hate this. This is one of the modern things I hate. You said it was taken out of context. I just played the whole thing. So it wasn't taken out of context. We played the whole answer. And I got to be honest with you, that last part where you basically suggested he didn't put any work in, hello, sir. Like, that wasn't taken out of context. Maybe you misspoke and you could say that, but he didn't say that. He just said his words were twisted. All right, so the reaction was grandiose all over the place. Damian Woody's was really good because here's a former player now, right? Here's a former player. Here's what he had to say about it on Get Up.
Granny, I've never heard anyone say anything remotely like that after a game. I really have. And, like, who the hell Micah Parson think he is talking like that after a game? Bro, you've been missing all these games with the injury. And last time I checked, the head coach is a Super Bowl winning coach. And I know the season hasn't gone the way that everyone is expected to go and all that. But for you to sit there in the locker room right after your team gets pummeled and to just undress your head coach in that manner, see, that's what's going on with all these podcast boys out here in the locker room. Everybody wants to sit there and they want to, spout and say all this type of stuff. There used to be a time when there was a little bit of respect, a little decorum in the locker room, because at the end of the day, it was about we didn't do enough. All of y'all got your asses kicked, okay? You're going to go out here and talk about your head coach, basically your head coach not working, not doing anything to try to prepare the team. I just think it's a bunch of BS, man. Yeah. I really do. I like, we can sit here and laugh and all that type of stuff and be here in shock, but that's disrespectful what Micah Parson did to Mike McCarthy in that situation, because I know, again, it's not the results that Mike McCarthy wants, but I know that man is busting his ass every single day to try to go out there and get a win, and to hear one of your star players come out there and say that. Yeah. Come on, man. Like, I can't ride with that.
Podcast boys.
If Micah Parsons doesn't come out with a podcast boys pod next week, mistake. That's all I'm going to say. Mistake.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure Motram's on top of this. Whoever the merch people are, the Micah podcast boys, that's got to be out there immediately.
We dem podcast boys.
we dem podcast boys is pretty good.
I need that in burgundy and gold. Motram, give me Motram, send me one of those. I think that's good. You dem podcast boys. I think Motram's got to be on that one.
I think so too. All right, so there's an ex-player, ripped him pretty good. Sitting next to him was Rex Ryan. Rex Ryan, of course, is going. Rex Ryan, and this needs to be pointed out, and Micah pointed this out, and I thought was fair. Rex Ryan publicly wanted to be the defensive coordinator of the Cowboys after Dan Quinn left. So keep that in mind, right? Because it's a fair criticism to say, oh, you wanted to coach us, and now you're ripping us, right? So that's fair. I don't think that was the motivation behind what Rex Ryan did. I'll let you be the judge of that. But in fairness to Micah Parsons for a moment, that is true, right? That is true. He actively tried to get the job. Here's Rex Ryan.
Mike McCarthy, no coach deserves that, because the hours, trust me, my friend, the hours this guy's putting in, no player is putting in the work that a head coach is, I can assure you. And look, you can have some private issue, all right? Go to the owner, go to whoever, go to Mike McCarthy. But why the hell do you think you need to say that why do you need to hurt this man? Who do you think gets blamed for everything? He gets it anyway. And so why are you piling on? All right, yeah, dead man walking. Yeah, he is. But you know what? He's professional as hell. He hadn't once blamed a damn player, ever. It's bull.
Yeah. And I'm glad you said that, and I'm
yeah, well. It is.
Right.
I agree. Like, that is true. Like, what was the number? What is their point differential at home this year?
It's this year and the Packers game, -110.
-110, including the one last year where they were down 58-0 in the playoffs. That was
right.
That was in no offense, Dan Quinn, if you're watching this. That was one of my favorite moments in playoff history because we haven't had a lot of good ones on our side, but watching them get completely destroyed play after play after play was one of my, I was giggling on the couch. It was the most fun. I was Stephen A. Smith. My kids were like, what is so funny about this? And I go, get into football for a few more years and you will find the humor in this and how unbelievably wonderful. Like, if you want a silver lining for what was a terrible year for us a year ago, it's sitting here and watching this. That was my late Christmas present, was watching that happen. And to Rex Ryan's point, I agree. Have you heard, you just named the point differential. I've never heard Mike McCarthy point the finger at one player after all of that, and they are getting destroyed by the good teams. Detroit comes in there, kills them. That Ravens score should never have been as close. They were killing them. The Eagles the other day killed them. The games aren't even close at home right now. It's so bad that they're yelling at Jerry Jones that the sunlight now is a problem in that stadium. To which his answer was so great. He's like, okay, let's just tear the whole place down. Get real.
Yeah. He's like, stop asking me about the damn sun is pretty much what he got to. To your point too here, they didn't have Dak either this game. Like, why everyone's freaking out about this one when they didn't have their starting quarterback? Like, that's the excuse of all excuses. You don't have your franchise quarterback. Like, that's what I don't understand either.
Listen, we lived this a year ago. Like, obviously, I told you this last week. I go, word on the street is this is already a done deal. Not that that's overly a surprise because of what their record is, but it felt very like how we were in midseason last year. I'm like, I know what the end result's going to be with Ron and the staff. Like, I already know it. And that's what sucks about this because there's kind of no hope to turn it back around. I guess if the players somehow win a bunch of games, I guess maybe they'll reconsider, but it is that way. And that stinks, right? Like, so that stinks. But like at the same time, you can't do what he did. Like, I agree with Rex Ryan here. Like, I just, this guy has won a lot of games. Do I think he's a great NFL coach? No. Like, has he been fortunate to be in really good spots with a couple teams? Sure. You still have to win. And his record speaks for itself. And when we play them, in a week, assuming he's still the coach there, I will cite this record where his win percentage is like among the greatest of all time. He's won a Super Bowl before. And you could sit there and go, oh, that's Aaron Rodgers in his prime. Or you could go, those are really good teams that he had in Dallas. Doesn't look like a really good team right now. So I don't know. Like, I agree with the whole sentiment of what is wrong with you? Why would you attack this man this way? He hasn't attacked you. He hasn't said anything. You're the defense keeps giving up 40 points every week. Like, excuse me? I thought you were a megastar, greatest defensive player in the NFL, wanting $35 million a year on a team that has the worst scoring defense in the NFL. Who are you to talk right now?
I think that's the other part of this too, is it's coming from Micah, who I think over the last 2 years has garnered this bad type of attention in the NFL circles where you had I think it was Emmitt Smith and Michael Irvin, those types come out and say, you got to keep this stuff in the locker room. You can't be doing the podcast thing, or you can't be talking about the inside stuff on your podcast. He's gotten a lot of pushback from the actual people that worked in the game. And I think this is also what's rubbing, Woody and Rex the wrong way too, is they already kind of know this dude's reputation and they're kind of sick of hearing it from him. They're pretty much saying, shut up and play, I think, to him.
100%. All right. We're going to stay on this for a moment. I'll be right back. Bram, watch the show. ESPN at 6:30 Sports Capital.
Behind the delivery trucks that keep your life stocked, thousands of employees at BP go to work every day. People bringing a new offshore production platform online. People making our refineries capable of more, like making renewable diesel from agricultural waste. People trading and shipping fuels to our customers. And people helping truckers fill up and get maintenance at our convenient locations. They're part of the more than 300,000 jobs BP supports across the country. Learn more at bp.com/investing in America.
Blinds.com is kicking off the savings early with Black Friday mega deals all month long. A Blinds.com design expert can help you make the perfect selection on your schedule. We can even handle everything from measure to your whole home installed for just one low cost. With over 25 million windows covered, Blinds.com is the #1 online retailer of custom window coverings. Get up to 45% off site-wide, plus premium doorbusters and a free professional measure. Now at Blinds.com. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Prep for Thanksgiving at Whole Foods Market. Save now on no antibiotics ever frozen whole turkey, just $1.49 a pound with Prime. Sales on brie and select seafood appetizers help get things started. For sides, go with wallet-happy favorites from 365 by Whole Foods Market. And finish with decadent desserts from the bakery. Or get your whole spread catered. Just order early. Get Thanksgiving ready at Whole Foods Market. Terms apply.
All right, welcome back. All right, so two things come out of, Micah going off on his coach, which is obviously things are going to change there. The first one is everyone just makes this assumption. It's rarely ever the case, but everyone makes an assumption, he wants out. And, well, he starred for who happens to be the head coach here right now. So let me just ask this question. Do you want him? And not that he's available, or that Dallas, albeit they've been weird in contract negotiations, have ever really just let a star in his prime just walk. They've never really done that. So he's not, I wouldn't even describe him really as and I guess, does he even want to leave? You don't know that. Just because he's complaining about the situation right now doesn't mean he doesn't want to be a Cowboy. But he'll be linked here. As things kind of progress here, people are going to ask him a lot of questions about what he wants. And if he even hints for a second that he'd be open to going somewhere else, they got to pay him too. He's going to be linked here directly. So off of what you've seen, heard, he puts the locker room stuff just out there. Listen, I respect him. I think he's an unbelievably outstanding player. But all of that stuff, that's the stuff we don't have going on here right now. We don't. No, I'm not saying no. I'm just saying, I don't know,
No, I would say we've done a great job of not having to do that anymore. And I would say they're probably going to weigh in on that. This is a classic. He's so good that might outweigh some of that you get. Here's the thing that I've always felt, though. I hate doing the trade all the draft picks and having to pay for a guy. I hate the double-edged sword of that in the NFL. You have to be a bar none 100% very special player on and off the field for me to do that. And there's one red flag, and that's one red flag too many when it comes to him kind of revealing stuff in the locker room. I would love to have him straight up free agent. I'm all in. Give him that contract. But to trade the assets and to trade it with them, I have a bad feeling about that. I don't think I could stomach it.
This is maybe a really bad team gives up a crazy price to acquire him. But then he's like, now you're a Jaguar. Have fun.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Right. Beware what you want. All right. The other thing that obviously came out of this is dead man walking. We all know this. McCarthy's probably going to be replaced. You know who they're talking about. Dion. Rex Ryan made the case of, the Saints job's open. Aaron Glenn's doing a great job in Detroit. Used to play in New Orleans. Jets job is open. Used to play in New York. He's ready to be a head coach. He'll probably get one of those jobs. D'Amico Ryan's doing a very good job, albeit let's see what happens here. In Houston, former player. Dan Campbell, former player with the Lions, he's probably coach of the year up there. Dan's had a great, I think he's a candidate here too, but Campbell, I think he's going to be a heavy candidate to be coach of the year. He's done an incredible job with Detroit, and they're obviously a front runner in the NFC. Do you think Jerry would do this?
Oh, man. No, because it would be the first time the head coach would be bigger than the owner. In that
scenario. You could argue Parcells.
Yeah, but in a different light.
You could argue it.
But Parcells was just a hard ass old head coach too. He was not the equivalent to Ric Flair as a head coach. Styling and profiling. That's Dion. That's a different kind of
Isn't
swagger.
This what Jerry wants though? He wants the flash.
I don't think as his head coach though. I think he wants him to be the players. I don't think he wants him to be the head coach because you know what's going to happen is Jerry's going to do those hits on the Dallas, sports stations, and then Deion's going to get asked about it, and Deion's going to speak his mind. He's not going to sugarcoat it. And I just think that's a bad mix. Like that I don't think he wants that, is what I'm getting at. He's also going to
try to get his son there.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. So I don't think Jerry wants that smoke, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, obviously they're going to get a new head coach. There's going to be a line out the door to get it. Don't be fooled.
Yeah, of course.
Would he go the direction of getting Deion, who, I got to be honest with you, like, I thought it was all going to go bust on him this year. They're like 7-2.
Yep.
So, they deserve a lot of credit for hanging in there, because everyone basically said they were going to stink. And after they lost to Nebraska, it was like, they are going to stink. And then they didn't. So I'm buying in on Deion. As an NFL coach, I don't know. But, like, can he relate to the players? No doubt about it. Like, it was funny. I think Rex Ryan or somebody said something to the effect of, he goes, you think Micah Parson, you going to say that about Deion Sanders? Because Deion Sanders is a Hall of Fame player, one of the greatest of all time. I dare you to say something like that if he's your head coach to him, because he's going to look at you and be like, you don't know what you're talking about. I know what I'm talking about here. I'd love to see it. I actually think it'd be incredible for the NFL. I would love to see it. And I think it would just be, but I'm with you. I don't think Jerry will hire somebody who eclipses him.
That's right. Right. Because it's you're not just hiring a former player, you're hiring an icon. And an icon that
incredible with the media.
Correct. Incredible with the media. And the kids like to use the word aura these days.
Yes.
Deion's the definition of aura. Played for the Niners, played for the Cowboys, played for the Redskins, played into his late 30s with the Ravens, was a dual sport athlete in Atlanta with the Falcons and the Braves. Like, you just don't, they're not made like that anymore.
I agree.
He has the personality to accompany all of that. I just don't think Jerry's about that life.
I agree. Real quickly, the Wiz are 2-7, so the mission is being accomplished, guys. Good job. You're doing it.
Kyle Kuzma, terrible last night. God awful last night.
Well, who cares? Like, who cares? Who cares?
Wow, you turned into me. I love it. I'm so proud of you. Like for years, I've been like this. And
when you tell me you're not trying to win right now, I go, who cares? Tell me when you are. All right. Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Mission accomplished. You guys said you want to stink. You are stinking.
We're not calling this a bad thing. This is what we want. This is what we want.
You want. Congratulations. All right. See you tomorrow. Pray much to show you at 6:30 Sports Capital.